This has big implications for the Cavs' future. A recent article coming out about head coach Kenny Atkinson, who has a very talented roster to coach, but it's not that simple. I'm going to break it all down for you right here on Cavs Digest. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm your host today, Darayus Sethna. Before we take a deep dive into Kenny Atkinson, want to send you a friendly reminder here. Pulling up some numbers here for you right now. Look at that. 67% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. That's about 2/3 of the people who watch these videos, all you guys. So at least 2 of you out of every 3 people who watch these videos are not subscribed. Make sure you like this video and importantly, subscribe to that Cavs Digest YouTube channel. You're helping yourself out because you're getting content from Cavs Digest every day, and you're helping us out because obviously that's going to help out our ratings. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's get into it because today is a really interesting topic regarding head coach Kenny Atkinson. And, back in last July, when the Cavs hired him to replace JB Bickerstaff, Kenny Atkinson had a lot of goals, a lot of lofty goals and expectations that he set for the team. He was alongside Koby Altman. Every, big source in Cleveland media was there. One of the boxes that Kenny Atkinson wanted to check and was successful in checking was helping out star power forward Evan Mobley, essentially getting him the ball more, getting him more involved in the offense, and basically letting him showcase his entire potential to the NBA. And it certainly played out, right? Mobley last year participated in his first NBA All-Star game, won Defensive Player of the Year, and was on the All-NBA second team list. So obviously a very successful season for Evan Mobley. Another one of the key boxes that Kenny Atkinson checked was getting Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell to play together at the same time. They did that very well. This was the best Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell looked all season long. But getting into this recent report that I want to talk about here with Kenny Atkinson, that was on Yahoo Sports, it breaks down some of the maybe more complex intricacies within the Cavs because, as we all know, the Cavs have a very talented roster from the bottom to the top, especially when healthy, right? But there's still a challenge with that. It's not all peaches and cream. And this article really gets into some of the deep conceptual elements that Kenny Atkinson might have to deal with from a coaching standpoint throughout this upcoming season. The expectations are high, a lot on the line for the Cavs. This is probably one of the more important years the Cavs have had since the late LeBron years in 2009, 2010, when they were trying to put a winning team around LeBron, right? So getting into this article a little bit more, specifically on what Kenny Atkinson has to do, because you're kind of taking this coaching to the next level, right? So here's what the author, Jason Flickinger of Yahoo Sports, stated in this article. How do you better prepare a team that has mastered the regular season? How do you empower the supporting players who shrink in their roles in the postseason after they start in those roles for 82 games? And most importantly, how do you keep your best players from giving into their worst habits when the games matter most? This little paragraph here by Jason Flickinger is what's at stake for the Cavs this year. Right? That is ultimately what the questions that Cavs fans want answered. And, Matt has said this. I've said this multiple times. We know what we're going to get from Kenny Atkinson. We know what we're going to get, from Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and the bench players in the regular season. But how do you kind of shift the mindset of these players to do it, just say, hey, keep doing what you're doing? It's not as easy, and you can't flip a switch. We've seen it multiple times in recent NBA history here. You can't just flip a switch in the regular season and going into the playoffs and expect magic to happen, right? So when I look at Kenny Atkinson, this is the taking NBA coaching to the next level, right? Because you're not starting from the bottom like a JB Bickerstaff where you have to build a culture, motivate people, just be that rah-rah figure. No, at this point you have talented people who are motivated. You have a culture in place. So you're also, but at the same time, you're also not at the top. You haven't experienced winning at that high level. You haven't won that championship, right? So Kenny Atkinson and the Cavs are kind of in this middle ground here of, okay, I already have a strong culture. I have great players in place. Now, how do I motivate them and take them to that next level? One thing that I think could be really important here is just having Kenny Atkinson just individually challenging players more, right? Getting in their faces a bit. And I'm not saying he doesn't do that already or maybe does that behind the scenes a lot more, outside the public realm, but just getting into these guys saying, hey, you want to be successful? Do this in the playoffs. Do this when it matters most. We need you here when it matters most, and kind of holding them accountable in that sense, because players want that accountability, especially the players like Donovan Mitchell who want to win. And then secondly, another key point here, it's more than just the simple X's and O's, right? You're not drawing up, plays to be successful. You're not, like I said, you're not starting from the bottom. It's more of that mental shift in intense moments. So, for example, the Pacers series this past season, where the Cavs lost in 5 games. A lot of tense moments, right? The first 2 games at home were both very close games, and the Cavs dropped both of them in high leverage, high pressure situations. Game 3, they dominated, so they're down 2-1 going into Game 4 on the road, and they completely lay an egg. They're down by 41 points at halftime. Donovan Mitchell looks gassed. Allen looks gassed. Nobody was playing in the realm that they're accustomed to playing in, right? And again, a high leverage, high intensity moment where the Cavs don't show up. And then everything really just fell apart from there in Game 5. So for the Cavs, it's that mental shift. For guys like Darius Garland, how do you get to that growth that you experienced in the regular season? How do you translate that into the playoffs? And there's no clear-cut answer here. Like I said, with Evan Mobley, and obviously Koby Altman has made some great roster moves, but it's up to Kenny Atkinson to get the best out of these players, like the Evan Mobleys of the world. He's done that. He really took, I think, individualized his coaching with Evan Mobley, and you saw the growth. Now, I think Kenny Atkinson needs to take that little niche that he did with Evan Mobley and apply that to the rest of the Cavs team. So like I said, there are so many different methods that Kenny Atkinson can use here, whether it's individually motivating players, whether it's finding something within the group, that one common goal within the group that everybody can push towards. Obviously, the championship is the most obvious, but is there something else, those little niches that coaches have that maybe we as the public don't know, that can really get all of the players motivated and ready to go? So at the end of the day, it's a tough world that Kenny Atkinson is living in right now. And I'm not saying that obviously he should of course be the coach for years to come. And this is not a simple situation that the Cavs are presented with, right? The Kenny Atkinson is kind of in that middle ground. Like I said, he hasn't experienced winning, but the culture's already in place. The players are already established. So what can Kenny Atkinson, in your mind, do to keep the Cavs motivated, maybe take a lot of these key players, these star players, to the next level? I want to hear what you have to say. Like I said, 2/3 of you are not subscribed to the Cavs Digest YouTube channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video. Thanks so much for joining me in our latest episode of Cavs Digest. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks so much for your time, everybody. Take care.